When I say I am excited about this Friday sew along, it just doesn't quite capture how I really feel. And when you look at this dress, doesn't it just give you chills? Anyway, I want to help you prep for this Friday sew along in case you're sewing along. For those that don't know, we are using Simplicity 9789 View B, which is the top, to create this beautiful, beautiful Altuzarra dupe dress. While it's not 100% the dress, it does capture the look perfectly. So let's get into what you have to do to prepare. So to prepare for this Friday sew along, you will need to cut 2 pattern pieces from either Simplicity 9789 if you're sewing from size 4 through 12, or from Simplicity 9790 if you're sewing from size 14 through 20. The pattern pieces that you will need to cut is pattern piece number 1, which is the front and back, and pattern piece number 2, which is the overlay. Now we will need to make some adjustments to both of these pattern pieces because we are taking view B, which is the top, and we are making it a dress in order to create this Altuzarra dupe or mock. And so to the front piece, let's talk about, or front and back, let's talk about what we'll do with that first. So again, we need to extend that shirt length so that it is a dress length. And I did that by measuring between my waist and my ankle, which is the length of what I want my dress to be, and adding that additional length. So this is representing the shirt length, and then I added this additional length by measuring my waist. And there is a waist marking on your shirt, and so you could use that and then determine the additional length that you need to add. Now to the overlay. The overlay is what will be used to create that ruching effect and will be attached to the front and back. In order to determine the length of the overlay, you will need to measure the front and back pattern piece between the underarm and the bottom of that pattern. And this is the new version of the pattern after you have added the extension. And so you're going to take your measuring tape and you're going to measure from this underarm piece to the bottom of the new portion of the dress, the additional length that you have added. So you're going to take that measurement and then you're going to multiply by 2 and then add that additional length, because you are going to be doing quite a bit of gathering on this overlay. And so you need to make sure that you have enough fabric in order to create that gathering throughout the entire length of the dress. And so the muslin that I just showed you, that example, to give you an idea of what the measurements were. So from my waist to my ankle, I was about 38.5 inches. And then so that I had to make that adjustment on front piece number 1. And then from the underarm to the floor, I was about 54.5 inches. And so I needed to double that. And I'm only 5'2". So I actually took off that half inch because it's going to be already quite long on me. And so 54 times 2 is 108. And so the length of my overlay from the underarm to the floor was 108 inches. So from the top of the underarm or the bottom of the underarm all the way to the floor was 108 inches. Now the overlay piece is already longer, but it's longer to accommodate creating an overlay for a shirt. So I did not have to quite add 108 inches or I did not have to add that full amount. The overlay was about, from the underarm to the bottom of the overlay was about 33 inches. So it only needed to add about 75 inches in order to create the full length of the overlay. Some additional things that you may want to consider is that if you have very wide hips, you may want to consider adding additional width to your overlay as well as to your front and back to accommodate that width. To give you an example on myself, there's about 10 inches difference between my width, my waist, and my hip. But I did not have to add any additional width to my overlay or my front and back. Because we're using knit fabric, there was enough stretch in that fabric that I did not have to add anything additional. The other thing you may want to consider is that you may want to adjust the length to be shorter. If you don't want your dress to come all the way down to the floor, then you may want to adjust it a little bit shorter. Just remember that your overlay is going to be twice the length of the area of your front and back between the underarm and the bottom of your dress. So whatever length you choose to make your dress, you just want to make sure that your overlay is double the size of from your underarm to the bottom of the dress.